Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. So the Makerfield by-election, it is literally sending shockwaves through British politics right now. Today, we're going to look way beneath the surface of what, looks like just a standard local vote to uncover what's actually a massive structural threat to the entire country. Let's dive right in.
To really set the stage, our source material drops this incredibly striking quote. Analysts are saying, look, don't just write this off as internal Labour Party friction. No, they describe Andy Burnham winning this parliamentary seat as, and I quote, a highly choreographed coup d'etat wrapped in the velvet glove of democratic mandate. Wow, right? It sets up this absolutely fascinating contrast that we're unpacking today, the illusion of a totally normal local election versus the reality of a profound, calculated political threat.
Which brings us to the ultimate question driving all of this. Why on earth is a local by-election up in Lancashire causing such a palpable, undeniable sense of panic down in Westminster? Well, it's because winning Makerfield actually clears the final constitutional hurdle for Andy Burnham. It effectively smuggles a potential leadership challenge right to the front door of 10 Downing Street.
Section 1. A standard local win? Okay. Looking at the numbers, the sheer scale of this victory is just staggering. Burnham didn't just scrape by here. He captured nearly 55% of the vote, basically doubling his predecessor's majority. And on the flip side, the Conservatives finished fourth with a measly 2.2%. Our sources are calling this a historic humiliation for a seat they actually used to heavily contest. It's a complete wipeout. But the really critical number to pay attention to here is 9,000. That is Burnham's exact vote margin over Reform UK, who came in second. So how did he manage to squeeze that Reform vote so effectively? Well, the analysis points directly to his specific brand of localized, kind of business-friendly socialism. You see, he completely ditched that cautious managerial style we see so much in Westminster right now. Instead, he spoke directly to traditional working-class anxieties, and honestly, that 9,000 vote margin proves the electorate absolutely bought what he was selling.
Section 2. Anatomy of a coup. We are really seeing a clash of two very, very different realities here. On one hand, officially, Downing Street and Prime Minister Keir Starmer have tried to frame this as a victory for a campaign of hope and optimism. But analytical reality suggests something entirely different. The electorate didn't turn out in unusually high droves because they're just thrilled with the current management. Not at all. They basically treated this as a de facto referendum on Starmer's premiership.
And you know what? This was not an accident. Our sources outline this very specific, calculated sequence of events that created this political vacuum. Step 1. Labour MPs are watching their polling just steadily deteriorate, right? Combined with local election setbacks and this rising threat from Reform UK. Step 2. Josh Simons explicitly steps aside. And this wasn't just your standard resignation. The text actually describes it as an institutional invitation engineered specifically to create an opening. And finally, Step 3. Burnham, often called the King of the North, gladly accepts the invitation and marches south to Westminster.
Section 3. The numbers behind the threat.
So, Burnham's victory basically functions as this undeniable political proof of concept. Our sources lay out 4 specific massive achievements here. First, he successfully held off Reform UK in a working-class constituency. Second, he didn't just defend Labour's vote share, he actually managed to increase it. Third, he brought out an unusually high turnout for what should have been a standard by-election. And fourth, he successfully presented himself as a national figure, not just the mayor of Greater Manchester. For all those nervous MPs out there, this list makes Burnham look like an incredibly electable brand. And as we know in politics, once momentum builds behind a new brand, it is almost impossible to stop.
Now, while all this is unfolding, Starmer is currently stranded over at the G7 summit. According to the sources, he made a desperate attempt to placate Burnham by offering him a cabinet position. But Burnham's camp reportedly viewed the offer with total bemusement. They rejected it straight up because serving under Starmer right now would be, and this is their phrasing which is just devastating, akin to booking a cabin on the Titanic after it has already met the iceberg. Ouch.
Section 4. The looming civil war.
At the end of the day, it all comes down to one magic number, 81. Under Labour Party rules, if you want to challenge the leadership, you need the backing of 20% of the party's lawmakers to trigger a formal contest. That equates to roughly 81 MPs. That is the exact threshold Andy Burnham and his allies need to hit if they want to turn this silent, creeping coup into an open, formal leadership battle.
And as we map out the key players here, you can see the factions rapidly emerging. Keir Starmer, for his part, insists he has absolutely no intention of standing aside voluntarily. He says he will fight. Meanwhile, you've got figures like Wes Streeting just waiting in the wings, and prominent voices like Louise High openly calling for an orderly and managed transition. But the sources note a massive glaring risk here.
Open civil war? It is rarely attractive to voters. Burnham's allies might really prefer a clean transition, but if Starmer stubbornly refuses to read the room and just digs his heels in, analysts warn this could turn into an absolute political bloodbath that paralyzes the entire government.
Section 5. The New Era of Politics.
Zooming out for a second, our sources argue we're witnessing a fundamental shift in the UK toward presidential politics. Basically, leaders have become brands. The electorate has become utterly allergic to these gray, managerial vacuums. They're craving visceral, authentic leadership instead. And here's the kicker. When confidence in a political brand weakens, every single election, even a local by-election up in Lancashire, acts as an informal confidence vote. It really doesn't matter whose name is actually printed on the ballot paper.
So, I want to leave you with this really provocative question pulled directly from our analysis. Is Makerfield just a by-election, or was it the evening Britain's political landscape quietly changed forever? If Burnham successfully builds on this current momentum, Britain could seriously be about to welcome its 7th prime minister in a single decade. The sources are telling us we've fully moved past the era of stable governance and are now firmly entrenched in the territory of permanent crisis management. It's an absolutely fascinating situation, and we'll be watching it closely. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep questioning the headlines.